Good morning. It's Wednesday. I'm Wayne. Welcome to Wednesdays with Wayne. The first thing I want to do before we get started, as always, is thank you for your time. And I do that, as always, because a long time ago, a really good friend of mine, told me the most valuable thing anyone can give you is their time. So thank you for your time. You have my commitment. I'll do my best to make sure your time is well spent. I have a great surprise for you today. I'm really glad you tuned in. So I hope this is good. I hope you like it. I hope it's useful. And it came because, I have this saying, you never know who's going to be giving you your next good idea or bringing your future. And I say that because in 1987, I had this property listed and it wouldn't sell. And the owner finally says, why don't you just buy it? And I thought it was a crazy thing to say because we're in the depths of the 1980 recession. RTC was a government entity created, Resolution Trust Corporation, to bail out and clean up the mess from all the failed savings and loans and all the over lending and over borrowing and extending of credit to buyers who shouldn't have been borrowing and lenders who shouldn't have been lending. And it was a huge mess. And in the middle of that, I got into real estate. Hello. So that's where the old saying, timing is what? Everything comes from. So nonetheless, it was 87, a condo listed, nice piece of property, but it wouldn't sell because there just weren't any buyers and there weren't any lenders. So as you well know, we live in a capitalist society. And as you've heard me say over and over, if you don't understand capital, you're in trouble. We've transitioned from a society that paid cash for everything to society that charges almost everything. I just heard a report last week, consumer debt is at an all-time high. It's over 16 trillion. There's only 330 so million people in the country. 16 trillion? Holy moly. The problem is not that it's debt, because I like debt. The problem is it's bad debt. And so there's good debt and bad debt. There's good income and bad income. So if you have bad income, which is W-2 income, highly taxed, and you have bad debt, 22, 25% interest rates, you're toast. You might as well go jump in the toaster and end it. So, this character, my seller, says to me, why don't you buy it yourself? Well, there's a point where we just have to get off autopilot and think, which is a lost art. I don't mean that to be a disparaging comment, but since we're grown, since we come out of the womb and start trying to crawl around, what's our life like? Well, everybody and his brother telling us how to think, how to act, what to say, what to do. We want to fit in. We want to be socially accepted for the most part. So we act, think, and do what people tell us to act, think, and do so we can go on with them. The problem is most of that stuff's wrong. Why? Because the world is designed to change. And as the world changes, those thoughts and actions and behaviors become outdated. And so he says, so my saying is, you never know who's going to be bringing you your future. So rather than discount him as crazy, which he may or may not have been, it's irrelevant. The point is, he asked me a question that opened up my mind. And I started thinking about it. And then, as you probably heard me say this before, there are two questions that I learned to ask myself that's really helped me move forward and get past these barriers and obstacles and impediments to progress that we all have. And I don't use the word all very often. I very seldom speak in absolutes. If you notice my languaging pattern, it's usually fairly vague. In other words, I don't use words like all, every, never, because when you do that, the mind searches for the exception rather than listen to what I'm saying. So, but I will say this. You never know who's going to bring you your future. And there's a tendency to just judge people because something they said or their thought doesn't fit our thought. Their rules don't fit our rules. And when their rules don't fit our rules, well, they're just no good. They're, and then fill in the adjective, crazy, unempathetic, selfish, crooked, stupid, ignorant, and then you can get into the expletives I'm not going to repeat because you already know what they are. Just in case the children are watching. So the two questions are what if and how. And questions like what if opens up the mind to possibilities. That guy's crazy closes the mind. You go about your merry way. He's crazy. Yeah, you're right. You go tell your friend, you know what this guy said? This thing won't sell. It's a piece of condo. It won't sell. He says he wants me to buy it. That's crazy. They're like, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. And they go into collusion with you. And they join in this group thing called that guy's crazy. The truth is the guy gave you a huge opportunity. So the second question is how. So it's what if and how. What if I could do that? Well, if I could do it, I would own it, and then I would have to sell it. Well, would you have to sell it? Well, what if you turned it into a rental property? People can't buy houses because the mortgage markets are frozen, because we're in a recession, because the lenders lent too much and borrowed too much, so the whole system shut down, and there's no lending and borrowing going on right now. So people can't buy houses like they used to unless they have cash. So now we have this huge pool of tenants. Why don't you rent? Rent it. I could probably do that. Wonder what it would rent for. Now we have this thing called market research. So I put an ad in Saturday's paper and I said, for rent, 2-2 condo, next to the Four Seasons, towers on town, villas on Town Lake, next to Walter Creek and Lady Bird Lake. It's steps away from Lady Bird Lake. Then was called Town Lake. Attorney calls me and says, hey, I want to see the unit. Next thing I know, he says, I'll take it. Next thing you know, I rent it to him, I buy it, I rent it to him, and I put $7,000 in my pocket, and I become an investor. I'm like, that guy just brought me my future. So this is what I'm talking about leaving your mind open. A closed mind doesn't see or hear much. So the first thing is open up your mind. So somebody says to me, hey, Wayne, what's your topic for next week? I said, I don't know. We can't market without a topic. Really? Who said that? Whose rule is that? Because that's not my rule. You can market Wednesdays with Wayne without having a topic. So go market it now. Please, hurry, okay? Do we have to have a topic? You mean no one will come if we don't have a topic? Come on now. Someone might come. So anyway, it prompted me to start thinking. I thought, what can I talk about that would be useful? You know, because I'll be honest with you, this is a pain in the neck to set up and do. I guess Wednesday. I gotta go talk. What would be interesting? How can I be of benefit? What can I say or do that would be useful, that would be helpful? Because I don't want to sit up here and jibber jabber just for them because I said I would. I really want to do something that's useful and valuable. I thought, well, what can I do? How can I be useful? So I sat and I thought about it. Thought about it, and I thought about it, thought about it. And here's what I came up with. I thought, have I had problems, trials, tribulations, barriers, impediments to progress, setbacks, and times I hated my life? Yeah. Did I figure out a way to get through all that? Yeah. Maybe that would be good to talk about. Well, maybe. So here's the experiment, my little guinea pigs. Should you decide to stay tuned, I'm going to tell you what I've been doing for the past 35 years to get from broke, alone, divorced, upset, angry, sad, depressed, suicidal, broke, not that I mentioned broke, to being happy, joyful, fabulous relationship, more money than I need. It just comes in, and the ability to create my outcome. So I've gone from powerless to what I would call powerful. And what I mean by that is I actually am able now, with all the things I've learned, all the people I've studied, all the seminars I attended, all the workshops I went to, all the books I've read, all the people I interviewed, all the people I talked to, all the people I studied, all that whole body of information has got me to the point where I create my outcome. I want it, I get it. I'm not trying to be braggadocious or anything like that. I'm just saying, I typically get what I want. And I believe that we live in a world of abundance, not scarcity. And I believe, so if we live in a world of abundance, why should I do without anything? So I'm going to go into this, and over the next series, I don't know how long this is going to take, I don't know how it's going to last, because I don't have a plan. I'm just going to take it one topic at a time. I made some notes. I'm going to share with you what I've learned. Hopefully it will help. So I'll stop the jibber-jabber now and get on with it. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for your time. I hope it's useful. Number one, we've been told for so long what to think and how to think, but we lost the ability to think. We've been taught to think like the crowds and to think for ourselves. We've been taught to deny our own intuition and our own faith. As babies, we were born with an innate ability to create and intuit things. We grew into children, learned how to create what we wanted. Then we went to school and we were taught to memorize answers. Then we went to church and we were taught to memorize rules. Then the education system replaced intuition with right answers, and religion replaced faith as rules. That's what I see. That's my observation. Not down on school, not down on religion, but I'm down on people who want to control our minds and tell us what to think and have us deny our own intuition, when deep inside we already know what to do. You know what to do. So my question that I've heard, I've asked a lot of people over the years is, what are you pretending not to know? It's a powerful question. Because I know you know. Deep down inside, there's a part of you that knows what to do next. And I think we're taught to deny our own tuition into success in the search of good grades or acknowledgement or a pat on the back. When we sell, actually, internally, there's a part of us that dies because we sell out. So I think now more than ever, it's time to call on your intuition, to speak clearly, to have the clarity of thought, to think clearly and speak precisely. Clarity of thought, precision of speech, tell the truth, speak up. Now more than ever, these tools are necessary. Now more than ever, it's time to speak up. So much craziness out there, and the world being changed in a way that doesn't work for a lot of us. It's time to speak up. So that's number one. So it starts with this internal dialogue. We have two dialogues: the internal dialogue, the external dialogue. So we have things we say to ourselves, and then we have things we say to other people. The most powerful force you have is what you say to yourself and you believe. Thoughts are things, and they become real. You've heard it over and over, probably, maybe not. But thoughts are things, and they become real. Everything begins with a thought. So I'm going to start with this because this is the basis of creation. Everything begins with a thought. When we go to school, we were told what we learned, and we were told when we learned it. Memorize this. There's your test. Oh, good, you memorized it. Here's your raise. Smart little Johnny. Go about your life. You're going to be a huge success. What? You can't memorize that? You're never going to make it. What? And so everything begins with a thought. And then what happens is you say it to some child, and then they think they're dumb. And they go through life thinking they're dumb. They're not dumb because they were born a genius. We all were, and meant to be an incredible success. So I just want to get back to the basics. Trust my intuition. When I trust my intuition, it's fairly high. I'm fairly what I would call tuned in. I know what I know. I know when someone's sitting across the table is blowing smoke in my pocket. I can feel it a mile away. So I don't write the check. I don't grant the favor. I don't engage in a relationship. I end the conversation as quick as I can and I move on. There's a part of us that knows. So the first thing that I did was I stopped denying what I didn't know. And then in one of the seminars I went to, it was really interesting because I was all tangled up mentally, internally. And there was this one exercise about telling the truth. I went to a seminar. This guy went to prison. He was a hardcore criminal, and he figured out how to get out, and he got out by telling the truth. It's a long, involved story. I'm not going to go into it right now, but I'm just saying, this is the workshop I went to. The guy led it was the ex-con. And it was a whole seminar about how to tell the truth, about telling the truth. Whoa. So I come out of there kind of reeling because I didn't realize it was such a big topic because I had kind of played with it. And I said what I wanted to say and then tried to make it true. But it wasn't really true. And so one of the seminar promoter comes over to me and he says, how was that? I was kind of shaking, you know. It shook me to my core. A lot of the workshops I went to shook me to my core. I said, wow, that was like I'm telling the truth. That's something. So he says, so it was good? I said, no, it was terrible. He goes, really? I said, yes. So he's kind of confused. I said, well, I didn't like it because it hit home. I haven't really been good at that. I haven't been honest with myself. I haven't been honest with others. That became one of my core beliefs now. But that at one time wasn't. It was go along to get along. Say what you need to say to get what you want. It doesn't matter. It's just words. What? It's just words. So I said, this thing, I'm going to tell the truth. So you always tell the truth? He goes, yeah. I said, like every time, right? Yes, it's every time you speak. Every time I speak, tell the truth? He says, yeah. Wow. Isn't that weird? But that was such a new concept to me. So when I say thoughts are things that become real, it's how you think what you say to yourself. And what I do is I quit lying to myself. I quit lying to myself. I quit lying to other people. I started telling the truth. And so this is what comes, it came from this book that I read a long time ago. It was from a book called In Search of Excellence by Peters and Wadman. And what they did was they did a study of the most successful companies in the U.S. And they found that they all had similar traits. And this was called the fruit bowl area of business. So what they said was they all have similar traits, a lot of similar things they do that makes them successful. And so if you have a fruit bowl and it's full of fruit, then what happens when you take the bowl away? What happens to the fruit? Scatters, right? It goes from structure to random. And so what they found in these companies that the bowl, inside the bowl, were the rules, regulations, and policies of the organization. And that they call the context. So the context is what holds the people together. And the context with the rules, regulations, policies. That's why most companies have policy manuals. They have rules. And then the next thing they did was they made it really, really simple. They found that lots of books and policies and procedures, and I mean, if you look at the Pentagon, they've got all these policies and rules and procedures on how to procure goods and services. And they're paying $400 for screwdrivers and $600 for hammers. I mean, it's crazy. So what they discovered is a lot of rules and regulations don't work. The goal is to have very few. So you have them, you have a few of them, and you post them so everyone can see them. And you get agreement on them. So this is the context. inside the organization are the people. And the people are the content. So picture this as your mind. Your mind is the context. The content are your rules, your thoughts, your ideas. So you think according to what, and you behave according to what you believe. We all do. So this is why I say everything begins with a thought. This idea was once a thought. This flip chart pad was once a thought. This was once a thought. You were once a thought. So what happens, in my observation, is we have this, and then it drives us. We have this behavior or this action, and what we do gives us our result. And what a lot of therapists do is they work with people who don't do well in results, either professionally or personally, and they look at behavior, and I've discovered over the years that it's not about this. It's not about changing this, it's changing this. You change this will change. That's why the question is, what were you thinking? So the first thing is context, content. That's understanding this, to me. Your context determines your content. So my context is business, investing, relationships. So I read and study business, investing, relationships, because they're all correlated. So it's not what you do, it's how you think, because the thought drives the behavior. Okay? So this leads me to this next thing. This is all, and then what happens is your thought, behavior, results. So your thoughts are your rules. Your content are your rules, your belief system. Also known as a paradigm. A paradigm is simply a set of rules. And these rules do two things. Number one, they set boundaries. Two, they tell you how to be successful within those boundaries. What's the key word? Boundaries. So I'll give you some examples of how people think and how they change the world by what they were thinking. So this is one of the people I've studied, Joel Barker. The book is Future Edge, if you want to go get it. We have a course on this. And I'll read you some of the quotes that I found very interesting. This is a great book. If you enjoy learning new things about how you think, how you behave and operate in the world, how to increase your results, read this book. It's all about Future Edge. Paradigm. So a paradigm is a set of rules. It does two things. Sets boundaries, tells you how to be successful within those boundaries. Here are some quotes of some paradigms. United States Navy will not be caught napping. Frank Knox, Secretary of the Navy, December 5th, 1941. What happened December 6th? United States will not be caught napping. December 5th. December 6th, Pearl Harbor was bombed. The United States will not be caught. Yeah, they were caught napping. Actually. With over 50 cars already on sale, the Japanese are not likely to carve out a very big slice of the U.S. auto market. Business Week magazine, 1979. The Japanese are not likely to carve out a very big slice of the United States auto market. The phonograph is not of any commercial value. Thomas Edison remarking on his own invention in 1880. Flight by machines heavier than air is unpractical and insignificant, if not utterly impossible. Simon Newcomb, an astronomer, 1902. So you see, these thoughts are from people who are in that organization. They're in that culture. They're in that business. They can't see what's right in front of them. It's a blind spot. It's called a scotoma. People oftentimes can't see right in front of them because of the rules they have in their head. The reason I bring this up is because you're going to have opportunities come in front of you all the time. And your rules are going to see it as a distraction when actually it's an opportunity. And if you're clear and you can speak, if you can think clearly and speak precisely, then you know that this is the difference between an opportunity and a distraction. That's the beauty or the power of setting goals. If you don't have goals or a plan, you don't know the difference between an opportunity and a distraction. So then this thing called confusion sets in. Sensible and responsible women do not want to vote. Grover Cleveland, 1905. It is an idle dream to imagine that automobiles will take the place of railways in the long-distance movement of passengers. American Road Congress, 1913. There is no likelihood man can ever tap the power of the atom. Robert Millikan, Nobel Prize winner in physics. This was physics. Babe Ruth made a big mistake when he gave up pitching. Tris Speaker, 1921. Who the hell wants to hear actors talk? Harry Warner, Warner Brothers Pictures, 1927. Excuse me. I think there's a world market for about 5 computers. Tom Watson, chairman of IBM, 1943. The odds are the United States will not be able to honor the 1970 lunar landing date set by Mr. Kennedy. New Scientist magazine, April 1964. Here's one you might like. There's no reason for any individual to have a computer in their home. Ken Olson, President of Digital Equipment, 1977. And it goes on and on and on. So have you heard the saying, I believe it when I see it? Right. No. You'll see it when you believe it. We see what we're supposed to see. We see what our mind tells us to see. We hear what we want to hear. So to me, the first thing to do is think about what I'm thinking about. As soon as I have a thought, I go, where did that thought come from? Because as soon as you're a child, you start to mature. Your parents want to control your mind. And they do this out of love. They want you to be sure that you survive beyond their own days of survival. And you're prepared to take on the world. So they'll tell you what to think, and they'll tell you how to behave, and they'll tell you what to do. Then you go to the school system, and they want to control your mind. And then your friends want you to think like them. Then your boss wants you to think like them. Society wants you to think like them. There's this fight for your mind. There's a battle on for your mind. Now, if you don't believe me, look at how much time you spend on social media. Look at how much time you spend surfing the internet. Look at all the stuff you're looking at. You don't think there's a battle for your mind today? It's on. I'm not battling for your mind. So, calm down. I'm passing on the information. You like it, great. You don't like it, great. I got no investment in it. I'm just telling you what my journey was like and what I went through and how I got from where I was, which I didn't like, to where I am, which I love. So what I did was I started looking at rules. The world is designed to change. It's changing at high speed right now. It's going to continue to do so. The rules are continuing to change. My grandson came to me a few months ago. He says, hey, Grandpa. I said, yeah. He goes, I could be a girl. I went, what? You could be a girl. Who told you that? My teacher. Okay, good. Sit down. Can we talk? Yeah, let's talk. Okay, yeah, let's talk. Number one, your teacher's wrong. You can never be a girl or a boy. You have a penis. You're not going to ever have a vagina. You're never going to look like a girl to be a girl. You're a boy. You're not a girl. You're a male. Males can't be females. Females can't be males. Your teacher's wrong. I hope you said goodbye to her, because you're not going back there. It's cray-cray. So, excuse me. The world's designed to change, not always for the better. What we're seeing is a huge paradigm shift. So we have a paradigm, set of rules, sets boundaries, tell you how to be successful within those boundaries. What's the key word? Boundary. Learning takes place at the edge. If to go to the point of what's known out to what's unknown, you have to push this boundary. This is where learning takes place. As you leave the comfortable space you're in where you know everything, out to the world where you don't know everything, is when you go in to learning. This is where education takes place, right here. That's why it's called that. That's what education means. This is where learning takes place. So we have to keep pushing out into what we don't know. And then what happens is the unknown gets less and the known gets greater. Your box gets bigger. Then you push it out some more. And you push out into this big unknown. And the known gets bigger. And the known gets bigger. And you keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So this is what I've been doing for 35 years. I just keep pushing. So what about, was it, I don't know. Well, let me go turn that into something I know. So what happens here is, oftentimes, let me stick with this for a minute. And then the rules change. In the world, when the rules change, it's simply called a paradigm shift. And the paradigm shifts when someone starts messing with the rules. And a lot of people are messing with the rules right now. So a paradigm is a set of rules, sets boundaries, tell you how to be successful within the boundaries, keyword being boundaries. Learning takes place at the edge. You want to push beyond your self-imposed boundaries. Push, push, push. Study, learn, get out there, do something. And then a paradigm shift is when the rules start to change. It's shifting right now. It's been shifting. It's just shifting faster and faster and faster. So if your context here is going to be challenged, your content's going to be challenged. All your rules, all your thoughts, everything's being challenged. This is why I've been out there before. We have to learn to speak the truth and speak clearly and precisely. Clarity of thought, persistent speech. Say it. And then do it. I have a friend who couldn't figure why his kids do drugs. I go, why? Well, your kids do drugs. He goes, yeah, they can't. They get kicked out of school and all kinds of behavioral problems. Okay. Why do you think that is? He goes, I don't know. I said, okay. We're friends, right? He goes, yes. Okay, here's why. What do you do when you get up in the morning? You drink coffee, you smoke, you drink, you cheat on your wife. And you tell them they need to behave and follow the rules? How about instead of telling them to do that you become the model you want them to be? We're not friends anymore. That was the end of that conversation. Hey, get those leaves out of my house. Okay. Get a good look at the backside, bro, because you ain't going to see it again. So you got to surround yourself with people like you, who you want to be. If you want to know how you're doing, just look around. Who are the top 5 people you hang out with? If you look at them and you go, God, he's such a loser. Well, hey, he's your pal. Fire him. Hope this is making making sense. So this is it. It starts with how people think. It's knowing that the world is designed to change. People are designed to change as well. As my mentor, Bucky Fuller, said, these are my books on Bucky Fuller. So I've studied him, I've read most of his books, and I've learned a lot from him and how I operate in the world myself. And what he said, and what he wrote once is, people are evolutionary events. We're designed to change. There's no guarantee that the person who woke up this morning is the same person who went to sleep last night. And even scientists have discovered that all the cells in our body are changed and are new every 7 years. So everything is in a state of flux. Everything changes. Nothing remains the same. And so if we can just learn to adapt to change, then I think we're going to be better off in the long run. So what do we resist? What do humans resist most? Change. It's uncomfortable. It's disconcerting. It's disruptive. This world's that's the way the world is. There's no perfection out there. Stop. Just enjoy it when it's good, because it ain't going to be good long. You know, the good news is when it gets bad, it ain't going to be bad very long either, because that's the way life is. Why? Because one thing can't exist by itself. This is the other thing I learned from Bucky. It's an odd thing, but this is what it said. So when I see all this, I don't get emotional, and I go, oh, the paradigm's shifting again. This is interesting. That's what he said. So what does it mean? You can't have down without up. You can't have in without out. You can't have entropy without syntropy, concave, convex, proton, neutron. You can't have one without the other, always only coexisting. It's coexistence. So to get on with your life, nobody succeeds alone. The highest form of evolution is your partner. You get together with your spouse, the person you're going to spend your life with, your primary relationship, and you co-create. Everything you did, you create. You have the power to create everything. You've already done it. Every one of us, every one of you have created our lives exactly the way we want it. If you don't like it that way, then recreate it, because you have that power. So my solution to this is, when paradigm shifts, is to question everything. I don't assume anything is supposed to be that way. When people say to me, it is what it is. What do you mean it is what it is? It is what it is? It doesn't have to be that way. What if it's not that way? What if I want it to be different? So here's my saying. You cannot question an assumption you don't know you've made. So I do my best to get off of autopilot, accepting things the way they're supposed to be. Because maybe they're not supposed to be that way. And those rules may not be my rules. Your rules may not be my rules. My rules may not be your rules. We have a choice to choose the rules we want to play by. So what I'm going to go into are the rules that I play by. The rules that Lynn and I play by. And the rules, a lot of them are what I call them generalized principles, but I got the term from Bucky Fuller. He says a generalized principle is something that's true in all cases. It's something that scientists call a generalized principle. It's something that's true in all cases, no exceptions. So gravity, for example, is a generalized principle. If you don't understand gravity, you want to argue about gravity, go step off the roof, you'll discover gravity. When you hit the ground, you can go, okay, got it, I got gravity. Yeah, next time get a freaking parachute. Don't argue about stuff. And so it's about the generalized principles that are true in all cases, not the latest fad, not the latest trend, not the latest blah, 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 whatever it is, but the generalized principles that survive over time, that have a long shelf life. So everybody's got their own rules. And what keeps people broke and poor and struggle and all this are financial rules. Most divorces are caused from financial distress, money. So we walk around with rules like rich people are crooks. Don't come to one of my investment courses because there's nothing I can do for you. So then I got into studying how the human body is, how we're designed and how we're made and how we operate. So if you have this human form, and this is it, to the best of my ability, then what we have is we all have a mind, and the mind's in two parts. There's conscious and unconscious. And we also have a brain, right? The brain's in two parts, left brain, right brain. Then we have this thing called the body, which has a lifespan to it. And then we have this thing in us called the soul or the spirit. So this is what I work on. 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 So I'm working on myself mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and financially because I want to be fit in all 5 areas. Because I want to live a long time, be able to buy whatever I want, have a great time. I want to go back to when I was 10 years old and play. All I want to do is play. I love to play. It takes money to play. Somebody's got to pay for the house. And so it's right here because, as I said earlier, everything begins with a thought. And so when I look at this, I go, okay, this is mind. You have conscious, and then you have unconscious. It takes a very creative person to know how to spell a word more than one way. This thing up here, the conscious mind's typically in pretty good shape. If you ask people, do you want to be rich? Yeah. Do you want to be happy? Of course. Why aren't you? Then he gets into this. This is the most sensitive instrument in the universe. The subconscious or unconscious mind. Call it sub or on, either one. It's the most sensitive instrument in the universe and it behaves according to what it believes. So if you think rich people are crooks, don't come over here, okay? Because nothing I can do for you. No matter how many courses you take, books you read, blah, 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 there's going to be this underlying thought called rich people are crooks. That's going to drive your behavior. That's going to drive your behavior. That's going to drive your behavior. If you think rich people are crooks, then you're going to end up here. It's going to reflect right here. So, you know, thoughts are themes. They often translate into words. When I hear people talking, I hear the thought. I look at the result and it's verified. Right there in front of you. So work on this. I work on this. Work on this. Mainly, most of my work over the past couple decades has been right here. Because oftentimes what's stuck in here is, unfortunately, it's not joy. You know, it's unhappiness. It's not, unfortunately, because of the way we're designed, what gets stuck in unconscious mind is doubt, guilt, regret, fear. So how do we get rid of this and get that? Well, you go find a professional who knows how to do that. And if you want to know who I work with, email me, message me, get a hold of me. I'll give you her contact information. But this was years and years and years of very intense work. Just what am I thinking and why am I behaving? Why am I not getting the result I want? Okay? And that came from this other seminar I went to when I learned the power of this word. So if you want to play life from this point of view, I've got great news for you. But if you want to stay here, I can't help you. No one can. If you want to go here, no one can help you. If you're blaming your miserable, pitiful existence on someone else, no one can help you. If you justify, no one can help you. So number one, got to go here. So of all the things I learned, telling the truth was important. And the truth was I was blaming everybody else for my outcomes. Excuse me. So when I went broke in the 80s, I blamed the Arabs for messing up the oil market. I blamed the government for allowing them to do it. I blamed the environmentalists for not allowing them to build refinery, blah, blah, blah. And it was just all psychobabble. It was deflecting. So, you want to know where your problems are? Go look in the mirror. You'll see it. There's someone going, what? Who? Me? What? What? Yeah, it's you, bro. So once you go here, you own all my outcomes. My staff make a problem, it's my problem. It's my responsibility. They either weren't trained or they weren't educated, they weren't informed, they didn't know. There's no one malicious in our firm. No one. We have no malicious people. We have no one who doesn't care. They're all caring, they're all kind, they're all generous. They love their jobs, they do really, really good work. And sometimes things fall through the cracks. Do I blame the people? No, I blame the system. This is what I learned over the years. But I got to own it. That's my outcome. So how do I go fix it? I go retrain. I go talk about it. So this is the most powerful. And this is what I wake up thinking. So when I was little, I remember when I was going through these processes, when I was a child, the books my mother used to read to me. This is where I got my negotiation skills and my persistence. And one book she used to read to me was this one on Brer Rabbit. And this farmer had this rabbit. And the rabbit didn't want to get eaten. The farmer was going to eat the rabbit, or the hunter, whatever it was. Anyway, he goes, if you don't be still, I'm going to throw you in the briar patch. And the Brer Rabbit goes, oh no, don't throw me in the briar patch. Please, please, I beg you. Anything but the farmer throws him in the briar patch. And the rabbit runs away and went, that's an interesting negotiating technique. Like 5 years old. Wow, that's a pretty smart rabbit. So tell them what you don't. And then she would read to me the little engine that could, the train is trying to get uphill. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I know I can, I know. She read that to me probably 100 times. That got ingrained in my head. So now it's part of my mantra, like, wow, that really freaks me out to take this deal on. I think I can. Wait a minute. I can do that. So I'm not trying to lead you astray with my process here. I still have some doubt, trepidation, but I've learned just to plow through it. Look, let me put it in the easiest terms I can give you right now, okay? You came here with nothing. You're leaving here with nothing. Why not take a risk? What do you got to lose? Nothing, because you don't own it anyway. You don't own this house. You're just the current owner. We're all passing through. Right? So, whatever. Go for it. And then the other one she used to read to me was Aesop's Fables. You remember Aesop, right? The philosopher. And this one, I don't know why they stuck with me, but they did. And this one was about, it was the father and a son and a donkey. And they were going into town to market. And the father was walking and the son was riding the donkey. And some people were coming out of town and they passed him on the road and they go, what kind of a father are you to And what the father was riding the donkey. And they said, what kind of father are you to ride the donkey and make your son walk? What's wrong with you? You should get off that donkey, let him ride it. So they put the son on the donkey. Other crowd comes out and he goes, what kind of son are you? You should let your father walk. He said, okay, please, hop please. His ankles and feet hurt. You're a young man, you're strong, you should be walking while he rides the donkey. So he gets on the donkey. And somebody comes out, another group comes by with their point of view, and they go, why are you both walking? You got a big, strong donkey there. Why don't you both go jump on it? So Dad goes, oh, so he jumps on the donkey. Now they're both riding the donkey. Of course, you know what happens next, right? Next crowd comes out, and they go, I can't believe both of you are riding that poor donkey. You should get off and let him walk. So they get off. And then the next crowd comes out and goes, why are you making the donkey walk? You should carry him. They go, what? Yeah, you should be carrying the donkey. Why are you making the donkey carry you? So they pick up the donkey and start carrying him. And they cross over the bridge and they drop him in the water and he drowns. They have no donkey. The moral of the story is be careful who you take your advice from. I don't know if that's what Aesop wrote. I can't remember the real moral of the story, but that's my takeaway. And I use it to this day. So people go, you should, what? So here's what I've learned. Rather than say you're crazy or think to myself they're crazy, here's what I say instead. That's an interesting point of view. So if you're talking to me and I say to you that's an interesting point of view, you now know what I'm thinking. You're cray-cray. Okay, so that's it. So I questioned everything. Everything. So we've learned most of man's laws, and all they want to do is I want to go learn nature's laws. What is synergy? How I use it? What is precession? How I use it? What is perturbation? How do I use it? What is leverage? How do I use it? How do I use the natural laws? And I'm not saying break man's laws, but a lot of man's rules, rules humans have created, don't actually serve me. I'm not talking about running stop signs and red lights and getting a red. I'm talking about breaking the law. I'm talking about rules, ways of thinking. And so I'll go into this more as we go through. So I'll end with this. Now, I hope this is useful. Hope this helps. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, as you've noticed. We'll go to it more next week and the week after. I don't know how many sessions we'll do like this, probably till I run out. But it's, again, sharing with you some things that have helped me, and I hope they'll do the same for you. Main thing is this right here. The subconscious mind, again, most sensitive instrument in the universe. It behaves according to one it believes. If you don't like your results, check your thinking processes. There's some thought. It's like this event I did week before last for a group of realtors at Balcones Country Club, and had one participant in there said she's trying to buy this property, but she was $2,000 short. I said, so what's in the way? She goes, $2,000. I said, well, if you can't get it out, what's the thought about the $2,000? Why don't you go get the $2,000? What's the thought? What are you thinking about? Well, I need $2,000. Okay, good. Well, I can go get it. What's the thought? What's the thought? I kept asking her over and over, what's the thought? Because the thought either propels you forward or stops you. You've read the book, right? As a Man Thinketh. So everything begins with a thought. If you've got these subconscious, unconscious thoughts, you've got to realize these. Get off autopilot. This is the most important thing to work on right here, because this controls everything. Unconscious, subconscious mind. Okay? So my advice, start there. If you want an introduction, email introduction to my coach, I'm happy to make it. Probably know how to reach me. If you don't, just email info@buildmyrebusiness.com. That's our corporate email address. Email me, info@buildmyrebusiness.com. Ask for me, Wayne. So in the way I started, thank you for your time. Thank you for showing up. Hope you found your time well spent. Hope it's something you can use. I'll see you next week. Please remember this. You were born a genius and meant to be an incredible success. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Let's go out and make it a better world. See you next Wednesday. Thank you.